going to talk about leadership in 4IR and what that means. And I'm going to talk a little bit from my own experience at the University of Johannesburg. I started working as the executive director in our libraries here in March 2018. And we have really embraced the fourth industrial revolution. But we haven't embraced it because it's catchy. We haven't embraced it because it is a KPI. And we haven't embraced it because we love technology for technology's sake. We have embraced the fourth industrial revolution because we asked questions. So when I joined the library, I went around and spoke to all the different divisions and asked them, what do you love about your job? And what is your biggest challenge? I spoke to the shelvers. And the biggest challenge for shelvers is a row of books, as you see on the screen. And a shelver would literally stand there and look at every single book to make sure that it was shelved correctly. Because our students and staff are very, very helpful. They like to put books back in the shelves, and then they put them in the wrong place. And so the next person can't find them. Okay, I thought, interesting problem. Spending a lot of time doing repetitive stuff. Surely there's an app for that. And so we came up with an application for a smartphone. And what we had to do was to start by scanning every single book and its barcode. And after that, our shelvers literally take a phone, put it in front of a row of books, and the phone will read what has been misshelved and what is missing. So we have a continual real-time stock taking through a small device like this. Great idea, but it goes much further than that. The shelver now has a mobile computer. One of the biggest problems that shelvers had, they told me, was that they were so out of the loop. They would only look at emails maybe once a day. They had to share one computer between 5 people. Now they get emails when everybody else does. Plus, they have a WhatsApp group, and they can say, hey, your book that's supposed to be on level 3 is down here at level 2. Meet me on level 4, or whatever the negotiation is on WhatsApp. Nice, good communication. But it goes further than that. The shelvers, who knew nothing about using our databases, have all been trained on how to use the database. A student can now come to a shelver and ask, where do I find this particular book? And instead of saying to the students, oh, go stand in the long queue and look it up on the computer, the shelver quickly looks it up on their phone, the student is happy, and what has happened? Shelvers have moved from being unseen, unheard people to being frontline customer care people. Instead of needing to hire more customer care people, I have got shelvers that are now doing this job. So 4IR is incredibly exciting. It's going to change the way we do things. But I think the big trick is that we need to ask the questions. What do we need? What is going to make our lives easier? And from that, we can then determine what is the best way forward. So, I think that the fourth industrial revolution is an industrial revolution, but it is critically also a knowledge revolution. And this, for me, is an important part of thinking about leadership in the fourth industrial revolution. Why do I say that? Because the knowledge we have is changing. In the 80s and the 70s, when we talked about leadership, we talked about systems. In the 1990s, we talked about formulas. Why did we do this? Systems were imported in the 1970s and 80s because we didn't have computers, we didn't have artificial intelligence, and we didn't have smart workflows that we now have on many, many different platforms and devices. In the 1990s, we talked about habits because now we had certain technologies and we were starting to realize that it's our human selves that also need to catch up. In the fourth information or knowledge or industrial revolution, however you want to look at it, we now have a lot more options. We have technology that does loads and loads of things for us. but our road ahead is wider, bigger, and has more options than it's ever had before. How do we bring everybody along as we change direction and start to do things differently? My experience in the library has made me realize that there are about 5 or 6 really important things if you want to bring about successful change management. The first is lean in and listen. What are the problems? And then use the technology to start to solve them. The shelvers example is just one small thing that we have done in the library. And why were we able to do it? Because we started by leaning in and listening. The second thing is do things in bite-sized chunks. I recently read that nowadays we should be spending 5 hours a day. Sorry, not 5 hours a day, that would be too extreme. 5 hours a week learning new things. How do we do that in the world of work? We do it by having a variety of task teams in the libraries. Each task team has to identify one problem and then solve that one problem. Most of the time, it will mean that people have to learn something new. They might need to learn a new technology or a new skill or a new product, etc. But we've taken the extraordinariness of 4.0, of the fourth industrial revolution, and we've broken it down into manageable bite-sized chunks. Over 3 years, if all 150 of our staff learn something new, can you imagine how much further we will be as a library, as opposed to nobody ever learning anything? But for me, the big trick in the fourth industrial revolution is our attitude as leaders. The more automated everything is, the more fantastic our systems flows are, the more we as leaders need to be human. That's what gives us the edge in the fourth and fifth industrial revolutions, our humanity. And I think we start by being authentic. Take off your mask. If I'd come into the library and pretended to be an expert librarian, my journey here would have been a complete disaster. I was authentic. I'm an academic. That's what I bring to the library. The library is made up of 150 librarians. I need to lean in and listen. What can they teach me? The next thing is to be vulnerable. And this is a hard thing, because you often feel when you are vulnerable that you're walking on a tightrope and there are sharks circling under you. But vulnerability is so important. Why? Because it makes you feel that I am human. In many ways, vulnerability is Ubuntu. It's recognizing that I am because you are. If I am honest and vulnerable and true, you will be honest and vulnerable and true. And together, we can create something amazing. But the next challenge in the fourth industrial revolution is the sense of our own selves. In the 1990s, you would get a job and people would tell you what you have to do and how you have to move forward. But now, only 30 years later, you really need to be self-directed in what you do. It's up to you to choose. What are you going to learn today? What new thing are you possibly going to come up with? There are no limitations. Anybody can start to write an app for something new. Anybody can start the next big thing in technology. We ourselves need to be self-directed. And the only way you can have a workforce that can do that is if you have a leader who is authentic and vulnerable and real, and opens up a space for people to begin to choose their own pathways, as opposed to being told, today, this is your list of things to do, and you must do it, and if you don't do it, you will be in trouble, and if you fail, you will be in even bigger trouble. The idea is people should choose their own pathways, try things out, and learn. And the last and possibly most challenging part of the fourth industrial revolution is creativity. We have to learn to think differently. And for me, this is a huge challenge in the world of universities. Are we developing creative thinking? Not creative in the way of it necessarily having to be art, but creative in ideas, creative in breaking out of boxes, creative in coming up with new concepts. That's what we should be doing at universities. And I think this is a huge challenge for us as a university, because we like to teach for content. We like to tell people what the truth is. We like to have boundaries and perimeters. And now we are saying, if you really want to be successful in this new world, you've got to go outside the boundaries. You've got to color outside the lines. You've got to use different colors, see the world differently. Creativity is challenging, and it's going to be one of the biggest things that we as humans bring to the fourth and fifth industrial revolutions. So we need to create spaces where people can be creative. And so as a leader, I think the most important thing is creating a space for people to be creative, for people to argue with each other, for people to try out ideas, for people to fail fast, and move forward. Try out something new. So I think the fourth industrial revolution is incredibly exciting. I think there are amazing new opportunities out there that we haven't yet begun to think of. My grandmother was born in 1913. There was not a single gym in the whole world when she was born. There was no such thing as a personal trainer. Now there is a gym on every street corner, is the way it feels to me. But there is a gym in every shopping mall. Every second person has a personal trainer. And I think that's what we're going to see in the fourth industrial revolution. People are going to do jobs that we haven't even conceived of yet. Our world is going to change, and I hope you are going to enjoy the challenges, the new experiences, and the creativity that the fourth industrial revolution makes possible. Thank you.